Guys, I have a superpower, okay? I can read your mind. And this isn't one of those like tricks where it's like, oh, choose your favorite color and then the third letter of the alphabet and then make an animal or what. No, it's not one of those, okay? I can read your mind right now. So just think of something, anything. I don't even care. I don't even know who you are. I've never met you. Think of something, okay? All right. You are thinking, oh my goodness, I have just always wanted to learn about the 32 Grenadine Islands, right? I got it right? Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't think that? Well, how convenient. So everybody, come with me and you'll be in a world of random island knowledge. This is gonna be one of the most random videos I've ever made. Anyway, let's have a Geography talk. Hey everybody, I'm your host Barbs, and oh my gosh, golly gee, Jackson 5, what do I have here? It's a Geography Now mug, and just in time for the winter season, a Geography Now hoodie, of which you can get at GeographyNow.com. All these products, go to the website, GeographyNow.com. We got a lot of cool things and merch over there. Do whatever you want with the merch, I don't care, it's your life. And speaking of winter season, the holiday season is coming up. We discontinued these after the Zimbabwe episode, but we're bringing them back for a limited time, and we're only gonna produce 100 of them. The mini Barb's figurine, of which you can get at figgyme.com. By the way, this is only for like the real diehard like Geography Now fans. Like if you just started watching Geography Now, you don't have to get one of these. Like I don't expect you to get one. Please, by all means, like don't feel pressured. If you missed out on your chance to get one of these, only 100 of these are going to be made. So get one now before we stop again and discontinue them again. figgyme.com. And as I always say, it is not selling out if it's your brand. So I'm gonna be honest, after 10 years of making content about every country on this planet, I typically find myself more intrigued by the little things that often get overlooked. You know, I kind of like to take my little, magnifying glass on the globe. For this video, we're gonna go to the Caribbean. So like, why am I randomly making a video and choosing this spot? I know it's weird. It's like so random because I personally really appreciate the places on Earth that have some of the biggest stories in the smallest places. And I personally believe this is one of those places. So here's the thing. Most countries, or like fully sovereign countries in the Caribbean, are mostly made up of like one or two predominantly inhabited islands. You know, like Jamaica or like Barbados, those are each one island. You know, Trinidad and Tobago are two islands. It's usually just one or two. But then you go to the very southern part of the Lesser Antilles and you get to two countries where something very strange happens. These countries are St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Grenada. Both are made up of a predominantly inhabited large island, followed by 32 dispersed little minion islands that they share amongst each other. These little minion islands are called the Grenadines. So of these Grenadines, St. Vincent takes the upper 2/3 and then Grenada takes the lower third. 32 main named islands, 23 of which belong to St. Vincent and 9 to Grenada. And the funny thing is, although these islands are very small, they all have like really interesting stories behind them. So disregarding the larger St. Vincent and Grenada islands, let's do a little breakdown of all of the Grenadines. Before we get into it, let me just give you a little information about something recent that happened. In 2024, Hurricane Beryl passed through some of these islands and kind of decimated a lot of the inhabited areas. I am making this video in 2025. If you go to Google Maps, you can probably look at the islands and you can see some of the destruction that the hurricane imposed upon these islands. Maybe in the future, in Google Maps, you'll see that they have recovered. Who knows? But let's hope for a speedy recovery. Now, just speaking a little bit from personal experience, I actually went to St. Vincent and the Grenadines for the St. Vincent and Grenadines episode. I have not been to Grenada yet, but I have been to St. Vincent. St. Vincent and the Grenadines is what I label as the country with the nicest people I've ever met on Earth. I'm not even joking. There was no motive. They weren't trying to get me to do anything or like buy anything. They just they wanted to hang out with me. Such an underrated place in the Caribbean. I totally recommend it. Anyway, off that topic. So without further ado, I'm gonna give you exactly what you wanted because this was all you. You thought of it. I was just reading your mind. Let's talk about each of the interesting, unique backstories of the Grenadine Islands, shall we? And let's start with the upper 2/3 with St. Vincent going north to south, okay? The very first Grenadine Island is Young Island. It's the easiest to access. It's only about 200 meters off the coast of the bigger St. Vincent Island. All you gotta do is take a ferry. It takes 5 minutes. It's super easy to get there. This island is a privately owned resort, originally developed by the Hilton Company and later sold to local citizens and business partners, Mr. Vidal Brown and Sir Frederick Ballantyne. And just behind this island is Roquefort Island with Fort Duvernette, which has a small colonial fort on top with cannons. Then you head a little south, and then you get to the big guy. This right here, right below them, is Bequia Island. Yes, I know it looks like it's pronounced Bequia. It's Bequia. That's how you pronounce it. That's the weird thing about St. Vincent and the Grenadines. A lot of the place names have strange pronunciations. It's like a weird half French, half Englishy thing that they do. Anyway, Bequia is the largest and most populous Grenadine island for St. Vincent. They have a population of about 6,000 people, and they even have their own island flag, which you can see has a whale on it. Why? Because they have a very interesting story. They were, and to some extent still are, the whaling hub of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Because St. Vincent and the Grenadines is one of the only few countries, according to the International Whaling Commission, that has legal acceptable grounds to practice whaling due to Aboriginal and Native practices. The Native peoples here being the Garifuna and the Kalinago. And the Garifuna people, I should do a video about the Garifuna people, but Garifuna people actually originated in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Shipwrecked enslaved peoples that mixed in with the native Carib people, and that's how the Garifuna people were born. Backstory. Anyway, like whaling is part of their culture as well as shipbuilding. You see like a lot of like historical wooden boats that they used to create back in like the 19th century. And then again, off of Bequia's coast, you have the three little islets of Petite Nevis, Ilacat, and Pigeon Island. All three are uninhabited. Petite Nevis, I believe, is privately owned. Historically, Petite Nevis was a whaling station as well. There have been development plans for Ilacat. It's the biggest one, but so far nothing has been developed yet. Ilacat is supposedly haunted. Fishermen have told stories of avoiding anchoring there at night due to hearing whistling spirit sounds. And the caves of Ilacat were used to smuggle contraband rum back in the 1700s. And Pigeon Island is called Pigeon Island because, as the saying goes, a pigeon can circle the entire island in less than a minute. Hence, that's how it got its name. Now, if you head just southeast of the Bequia Islands, you get to this trio. I like to call them the Balasso Islands. Batoia, Church Key, and Balasso, the big one. These islands have a very interesting and important story to not just St. Vincent's history, but to a lot of people throughout all of the Caribbean and Central America as well. Why? Well, first of all, let's explain them, okay? Now, first of all, these islands are all protected under the St. Vincent government. You're not allowed to develop on them. Batoia and Church Key are bird sanctuaries, but Balasso is the interesting one. It has a very controversial backstory because back in the 1700s, there were the Carib Wars, in which the Garifuna people teamed up with the French to fight against the British. The British and French were fighting over all these Caribbean islands. Long story short, the British won, and when they won, they exiled about 5,000 Garifuna people to this barren island, Balasso. Over the course of years, over half of the entire exiled population died off, mostly from starvation or disease. And then in 1797, the British re-deported whoever survived on Balasso Island all the way to Roatan Island off the coast of what is now Honduras. And those 2,000 or so surviving Garifuna people from Balasso Island were the forefathers of the current modern Garifuna people that you can find throughout all of Central America. It's crazy. Like, it all started in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and it had a very important chapter on Balasso Island. Now, from the Balasso Islands, you head a little south and you hit what I like to call the Speed Bump Islands. You get Alawash Island, the Caratus, and the Pillaries. Why are they speed bumps? Because historically, people heading south in the Grenadine Islands would have to watch out, especially if sailing at nighttime, so that they wouldn't crash into these little small islands and rocks. These little douchebag islands cause so many shipwrecks, which is why today, some people say, if you look in the right spots, you could possibly find sunken shipwreck treasure in these areas. It's not completely impossible. If you survive those douchebag speed bump islands and head just a little more south, you get to Mystique and the Mystique Islands. Mystique, according to what I was told, is nicknamed the Millionaire's Island because it's kind of like where the decently rich people go to relax with the resorts and estates out there. It's popular amongst, like celebrities and British royals. It has its own private airport. It has a nice, pleasant little lagoon on the south side. It is a privately owned island operated by the Mystique Company. In history, it was actually once owned privately by Lord Glenconner. He gave Princess Margaret 10 acres as a wedding present, and she built the famous Les Jolis Yeux Villa on the south side. Everything here is top-notch, high quality, beautiful vistas, and just on the east side of Mystique, you have Rabbit Island with a few offshore rocks. On the south side, you have Petite Mystique, which is also privately owned by the Mystique Company. It's uninhabited, but occasionally they bring rich people there to have like picnics. And the Millionaire's Island. Just south of the Mystique Islands, you have another transition zone. You have the Savannah Islands. These are small, low-lying, grassy islands that that were once a popular stopover hub for smugglers. And rumor has it that they have freshwater springs on them. If you go directly to the west, you have Little Canouan Island, privately owned by Canouan Island, the big guy. Canouan is nicknamed the Billionaires Island because this is where the stupidly rich people go. It has an entire luxury resort, a golf course, villas, extremely beautiful vistas. They have an incredible coral reef all on the east side of the island. But here's the thing. The entire south side of the island, or Charlestown, which by the way is where the private airport is. If you look at it in Google Maps, you'll see that a lot of the houses where the employees live that work on the resorts were heavily damaged by the hurricane. It's a messy situation right now on that island, but recovery efforts are going on right now. I don't know, it's like this place is heavily subsidized by incredibly rich people, so I have a feeling recovery will probably happen quicker than other islands. It's the billionaire island. I don't know how these things work, but if you look at the island, a lot of money goes into this place. We'll see what happens. Now, if you head south of Canouan, you hit what I like to call the Wonder Islands, because this area is one of the most popular places for people to visit when they go to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The Tobago Keys and Myro. If you look at this island chain right here, you can see that they clearly have the largest coral reefs out of all the entire country. And out of all of them, the only one that is permanently inhabited is Myro. They have a small population of only about 300 people, with just a small town mostly on the west side of the island. And the Tobago Keys made up of 5 small keys: Petit Rameau, Petit Bateau, Baradal, Jamesby, and Petit Tabac. Parts of these keys were actually used in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, like that scene where Elizabeth Swann burned the rum. That was here, like on the island of Petit Tabac. And then if you go way far out to the east, you get this random isolated place called Sail Rock because it looks like a sail. But yeah, this is like the cool little isolated coral reef zone of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now, heading south from the Tobago Keys, you get the southern islands. These are the southernmost parts of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines domain. The main hub being Union Island. This is the hub of southern St. Vincent. Like you anything south, you go here. They have their own airport. Now, after Beckway, Union Island is the largest public Grenadine island. It's not privately owned, just like regular Grenadine citizens live there. Now, here's where the story gets a little sad. Much of these islands were decimated by Hurricane Beryl, and much of the revenue from these islands came from Palm Island Resort. A lot of the people on Union Island would commute to Palm Island and they worked there. And if you look at Palm Island today, pretty much most of it was completely decimated by the hurricane. And today, the entire resort has been closed until further notice after reconstruction efforts have revitalized the island. And even Union Island was hit very hard by the hurricane. They had the Ashton Lagoon with the Frigate Bridge where you could literally walk all the way to Frigate Island, which had frigate birds. But that bridge got destroyed. And sadly enough, even Happy Island got hit hard. It was just like one small little sandbank island, and it just had like one little restaurant bar on it, and it was like a quaint little adorable little restaurant bar that people could go to, and that was partially damaged by the hurricane. It's like, Happy Island had a sad moment. And it's the same story for the southernmost island, Petite St. Vincent. It was also a privately owned resort area, and it was hit hard. Now the resort is completely closed. Good news, Mopion and Sambar Island survived. They weren't completely inundated with hurricane tidal waves, and they are some of the smallest islands on Earth. It's literally just sand that breaches the water level. You've probably seen them in like postcards. It's just like a small little island, and the only thing on Mopion Island is one small little like thatched umbrella, but the hurricane destroyed and got rid of that one umbrella. So now Mopion Island is just an empty sandbank. They don't have that one little umbrella on it. So I really hope they recover soon and get that umbrella back on Mopion Island. Hurricanes ruin everything, I swear. Anyway, so those are all the islands of St. Vincent. Now let's move on to Grenada. And right away you're hit with the 2 permanently inhabited ones. Carriacou, which is the largest and most populous of all the Grenadine islands in all of St. Vincent and Grenada. They have a population of about 9,000 people. They are known for their lively fishing and boat building community, traditional wooden sloop buildings. They have a very vibrant carnival festival, a bunch of small little islets off their coast like Mabuya, sandy island, GRENADINE, which has an underwater sculpture park. And then you get Petite Martinique, which is like a more chill version of Carriacou. They are accompanied by their sidekicks Fota and Petite Dominique, uninhabited small little islets. Now here's the thing, both of these inhabited islands also were heavily hit by Hurricane Beryl. Yeah, it's the most inhabited one, and they were hit pretty hard. It's kind of sad. Just south of Carriacou, you get the Saline Islands, White Island and Saline Island. As you could see from Saline Island, there's a huge lagoon, which occasionally dries up with a salt pan. Hundreds of years ago, this was a salt harvesting island. Head a little more south and you get Frigate Island, Large Island, and Rose Rock. Fishermen and sailors say that these islands have the best bioluminescent plankton, of which you can see best during new moon periods when there's no moonlight to shine and disrupt the light of the bioluminescent plankton. Head a little more south and you get the Letante Islands, Diamond Island, Ronde Island, and Kale Island. All of these are privately owned by Grenadian citizens, undisclosed ownership. They're known for being very lush and green with some great caves and diving. Ronde Island is privately owned, and if you zoom in, you can see there's a few buildings on it on the top of the hill. But the weird thing is, the island doesn't have a dock. The only way to get there is to anchor off the coast and like take a little dinghy up to the beach and then climb up to those buildings. Like, what is going on Ronde Island? I don't know. I don't even want to know if I want to look into it. Whatever. Ronde Island. And then you head a little south of these islands and you get Grenada's version of the douchebag speed bump zone, London Bridge. This was another dangerous area that people would crash into if they weren't paying attention. Therefore, another potential shipwreck treasure zone. And then finally, you get to the last of the Grenadine Islands just off the coast of Grenada's Big Island, Sandy Island, Green Island, and Sugarloaf Island. And the southernmost one, Bird Island, which is uninhabited and it's known for birds. Sugarloaf and Sandy Island are both privately owned. If you look at them, they each have like a few small developed buildings on them. Sugarloaf only has one small cottage on it. Sugarloaf Island also looks kind of cool because it has like the peaks of two extinct volcanic cones on it. And then finally, special extra bonus, Kick 'em Jenny. Right now, Grenada has a very famous underwater volcano that is constantly erupting and creating a new island. For a while, it actually did breach the water surface and there was a small little island, but then like, you know, ocean currents and hurricanes kind of eroded that small little attempted island. But yeah, Kick 'em Jenny is Grenada's newest kind of addition, and it's working on building itself. You know, she's working on herself. She's trying to make a new island. So there you go. Those are the Grenadines. Why did I decide to do this? Because it's so crazy how such a small, obscure region of the world, only about like 50 miles or like 85 kilometers wide, have such an intense backstory behind them. You have like Garifuna exiling and sunken ships and pirate smugglers and catastrophe and volcanoes and wars, all contained within a small stretch of a volcanic archipelago that nobody pays attention to. You know, there's a lot of stories in this world, but sometimes the most interesting ones are hidden away. And sometimes you really appreciate it more when you discover the big stories hidden in the small places. So there you go. Hope you liked this video. Hope you learned something. Stay cool, stay tuned. Cheers.